Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg. We're in the top right hand corner, joined of course by the Rebellion icon with the red SCVs. We're looking inside of the main base of ByuN and his opponent down in the bottom left, joined by... is that Vorazun? Apparently we get at least a little bit of Protoss representation here from the Zerg. We have none other than Shin. Alright, now I have not seen Shin play nearly as much as some of the other Zerg players from Korea on the brand new balance patch. I'm gonna keep calling it a brand new balance patch, okay? Mostly because of the fact that it's maybe like 2 months old or so, which in StarCraft terms, considering the game is older than 15 years now, I mean, StarCraft 2 is coming up on the age that it will be able to vote. I think 2 months, we can still refer to it as a new patch, and honestly, it does take a while for a lot of those changes to come into effect. For example, when the patch first went live, I think most people would agree, Protoss, yeah, it looked like a really, really strong race. Especially the change to, for example, Storm, right? It had a lot of people on edge, and for a little bit there, it did look like Protoss was going to have the upper hand, but it takes a while. People get used to the Storm duration and the new Storm in general, and then of course you can just, well, play around it. It's the same, I feel like, for the other matchups, though. Initially, I really thought that Zerg was looking kind of on the new patch. But I think, actually, Terran may be off slightly worse. I think my new estimation, so my previous estimation when the patch first went live, I first thought Protoss was best, then Terran, then Zerg, but I think I'm going to swap those last two around. I think my current observation, at the very least, is that Protoss has it best on the new patch, then Zerg, and then Terran. Very closely behind, but I have seen quite a few of the Terran players struggle. Now, most notably, especially in the Terran versus Protoss matchup, they once more seem to be having some problems. A lot of the Terrans not enjoying the matchup very much, although we have the likes of Clem still looking extremely solid. Either way, no Protoss in this particular matchup. I think in TVZ, everything is really still very much so up in the air. Yeah, we get a little bit of shenanigans with, for example, Muta-based openers from the Zerg. And we have seen some of the Terran players mess around with, for example, Terran Mech. I think Terran Mech is slightly worse now. I think Mutas are definitely slightly better. It's really still hard to say. And that is why I'm still referring to it as the new patch, because it just simply requires a lot of time. For those, even though they're relatively minor changes, right? But for those changes to settle, it is going to be a while. And it's a very fun time, I think, to be a StarCraft fan. Like, what is this? Normally, we never built the third command center right over here. Maybe ByuN is experimenting with something new. It is going to be a triple command center, though. 1-1-1. Factory is going to swap on over. We'll probably see a tech lab in a moment on that barracks. And at that point, we can go into the good old Hellion Banshee opener. Nothing all too weird here, but the positioning of the structures is something that is worth noting. It could actually be, because Shin always likes to scout the main base. So normal scout timing for the Overlord is about 3:45 to 4:15. So if you send the Overlord in right now, there's a very good chance that Shin is not going to see a command center, right? Like normally it'd be hiding over here or maybe over there in the back. I think though if he decides to skirt it around the edge here, he's still going to get a glimpse of the one building on the low ground. Maybe he'll even skip out on the Overlord altogether. Would not be surprised. Anyways, it is indeed going to be good old Hellion Banshee. The first Hellions are already out. Shin, in the meantime, just really opening up with a very standard start as well. So he got enough gas for metabolic boost early on. Now he's resaturated the extractor yet again, and we'll have to see what he decides to go for. He could go roaches, probably already too late for that. He could go double upgrades before lair. He would have to start it up in about the next 20 seconds or so. He could also go lair into quick banelingness to really get that baneling speed rolling. And it's one of those examples, right? Even like the standard opener for ZVT, the jury is not yet out. The patch is still a little too fresh for it. And we see a lot of variety because of it. Usually the longer a patch is around, the more frequently, we see the same build over and over and over again. Terrans, though, have already really settled back into this very common style that we've been seeing for years now. Triple command center, Hellion Banshee. It is just the way to start off. Double engineering bay. Alright, Stimpack right now on the back of this. Obviously, we have some variety for Terrans early on. Mostly because of the fact that you can build quite literally anything out of the first 3 tech structures, right? Anything from a marine to a battlecruiser. So we do see a little bit of variety there, but usually this is the gold standard. And ByuN also not really somebody that experiments all too much. So it's going to be 8 Hellions here in total. He does start up the +1 armor, in case you were confused whether or not this truly was ByuN playing. He does start up the +1 armor first. We should certainly not forget, there we go, about the +1 infantry attacks. Hellions in the meantime, though. Maybe with the Banshee distracting some of these units. All right, you know what? They might actually be able, to get more damage done than I expected. Keep in mind, though, that it's difficult now for those Hellions to go home. Queens are completely boxing this in. In the meantime, the Banshees are going to town, and this over here is nice. Couple of misrallied SCVs, it seems, but he does end up getting the kill on the opponent's 4th base. Not a cancel, that was a full kill. So that's 8 drones going down, plus the cost of the hatchery, plus the drone that it cost to actually make that hatch. All right. Misrallied SCVs kind of hurt, though. Yeah, there's still a rally point that's off. Which one is it? There's a rally point that is somehow, I think he's fixed it now, but there's a rally point that was moved across the map. Yeah, kind of makes the Hellion sacrifice a lot less significant. I think this is actually very playable still for Shin. It could be a disaster, right? When you lose a Hellion, when you lose a hatchery and 8 drones like that. But he did end up getting 4 SCVs and then also 8 Hellions for his troubles. I don't think it's the end of the world here for the Zerg player whatsoever, especially considering he did skip out on those roaches, and he did go quick double upgrades, and he did go for the Baneling speed here rather early as well. Banshee's going back in for more. I'm not sure why we're making 15 Banelings right now, if I'm being honest. I don't really think we need that, but I guess he just wants to have them out. Second factory at the front. Does not get spotted by the Zerg. Second factory over here, though, at the front. It indicates that we'll likely see a 4th command center here in just a moment as well. Hydras are going to get their ranged upgrade, so it will be full Hydra-ling Bane here for Shin. And I guess since he was already planning on making a lot of Ling and Bane, I guess he doesn't really want to make Hydras yet. That's probably why he made the Banelings, yeah. Even though he's got a Hydra transition coming, he is not prepared for it just yet. ByuN sees it now, though. Banelings get their roly-poly upgrade just barely in the nick of time. Great defense here by Shin. Great split as well on a couple of those Banelings, making sure that the siege tank does not get that much damage done. And ByuN completely pushed aside with that particular attack. Yeah, we can keep dancing back and forth, but this attack has already mostly failed here for the Terran. He does get a good bit of damage done, though, with those Banshees. Those Banshees have been very nice. Now the Hydras are coming. Apparently, he wanted to wait until the ranged upgrade for them was done, and then add in the good old muscular augments. So that is going to be the movement speed. +2/+2? No, it's going to be +2 right here, and then a +1 missile. So maybe lurkers? We'll have to see. Infestation Pit does go down right now, so we'll probably see a hive in a moment. And then maybe a lurker then too. ByuN did fire up the +2 attack, though, before the +2 armor. And now we have indeed added on barracks 6, 7, and 8 over here in the main base after the 4th command center. So a very macro-oriented style right here from ByuN. And he's gonna need it, because so far, he has not really achieved all too much. The Hellions originally look nice, but I don't think that's really been justified just yet. Trying his best to just micro to the best of his abilities. No hive yet here for Shin. I'm assuming we'll start that up here as soon as he is done dancing. Lovely little bit of micro here, though, by the Terran player. We do have to go into a hive soon, Shin. Otherwise, the upgrades really start falling behind quite a lot. Either that, or he wants to go for a very large lair tech-based timing attack. Those are very uncommon these days, but I mean, he does have the good setup for it. Terrans can, of course, go into 3-3. The requirement is to have an armory out and +2 done. But in order to go +2, you need the armory, so... good pickup over here by ByuN, but he's losing another tank. I actually think Shin is going for, like, a lair tech timing. Now he starts up the hive. Okay, maybe we're Maybe we're changing the goal a little bit because this hive is super late. He probably forgot about it in that case. A little bit odd. Maybe he sees something here that is pushing him away from a lair tech attack, but the fact that the hive is not yet done, yeah, it makes it all a little bit messy. ByuN's planetary fortress now is finished up. Shin has a lot of units though. Yeah, and it looks like he wants to test the waters. Now he sees though that the Terran is just about to move out. And his, well, field timing attack may actually end up working out because it's a bit of a misread right now from ByuN, who's moving deep off of the bases. Marines are going to be winning the fight over here at the bottom. It looks like the Marines are going to be winning the fight over here at the top as well. Reinforcing banelings showing up right now. And both players decide to effectively trade out their entire armies. Who achieved anything there? Both of them had a huge force and then decided, you know what? Yep. Let's just fight it out in the middle of the map. You know, why go to war? Just have one battle one time. See if maybe we can settle this like gentlemen. Maybe we can pause the game and use the power of diplomacy next. 5th command center though coming up for ByuN. 6th hatchery in the far bottom right. Yeah, Hydroling Bane reinforces so fast, right? And that might be an issue here for ByuN in the end. Sniping this command center is going to be big. Cancels in time, so that's nice. Wouldn't mind helping out a little bit in that department. Another command center was added into the mix too. Now the lurker then comes up. Okay. Shin clearly had different plans. But his hand has been forced. He does not feel like he can actually go and, well, finish the game at this point in time. And I agree with him. Yeah, maybe we can have like a one-off fight, you know? Like one Marine champion going up against one Zergling champion. Meet in the middle of the map, fight it out. We don't need to have all this death. Ghosts are coming though. ByuN anticipating indeed that we are going to be going into the good old lurkers. It's going to be lurkers or ultras. If he hasn't seen the lurker den. No, I don't think he has. But it doesn't really matter. Ghosts are going to be pretty great against pretty much all the Zerg late game units. Okay. Personal cloaking is going to be done in a moment. Hydra lunge ability is going to be available very soon too. The good old nanomuscular swell research. It doesn't fit, I guess, in the box over here on the right, so it's just called lunge, which I find kind of ironic. I do have to say that the name nanomuscular swell is also kind of disgusting. Like, it's up there together with the extended thermal lens, you know? It's, I don't know. Here's the snipes, though, going in. First time, I believe, that the Zerg will see that there are indeed ghosts. Ooh, he wants to try and push the issue. Dangerous move, though. Nice snipes by ByuN, but he needs to be careful. Maybe a little overextended. Now the banelings do indeed connect. Bunch of the lurkers going around the side. Are we gonna body block? Are we trying to body block with SCVs? Okay. I think these lurkers, we may have to burrow them and hope for the best, but they are not going to go home. Nidus Worm is going to be next. It'll help out a lot with the repositioning. Already though, ByuN has added on a fusion core, and he's going to be going into the Caduceus reactor, so that will be the good old medevac regen. Triple command center building inside of the main base. We still have a few orbital commands here that need hats. A couple of command centers for the time being, but we really need to upgrade them. Built a nice little hat. Come on. A lot of things that need to be managed at this point in time. A double splitty. Alright, this is of course where lurkers are awesome. Nidus Worm in the main base, immediately intercepted. Great move right there by the Terran. Little medevac drop over here too, denying all of this. But this base is a difficult one though, for Terran to mine. In the meantime, a new expansion is coming up over here on the right side. Shin trying to see if we can keep on pushing the issue here. Not a lot of creep though in that direction yet. We may need a few tumors around. Liberators, though, are immediately being upgraded, so that's the advanced ballistics. And ByuN is doing a very good job smoothly bringing up his army to a proper late-game tech. I'm liking the way that ByuN is playing a little bit better across the board. Although this is by no means a bad spot here for Shin. And obviously you only need like one really bad engagement for this to be a disaster for the Terran player. Banelings over there, woo, do take a very big Widowmine hit to the face. Problem is though, Zerg has so much money that they can just instantly remax. An extremely expensive set of losses right there for Shin. He's putting down another Nidus Worm. He's actually completely broke now as far as the minerals go. Maybe a little bit preemptive there on that particular planetary snipe. 13 SCVs, though, do go down, and the planetary itself, too. But, of course, we've already seen all of those command centers. There's plenty to replace the lost structure with. Building armor coming up. I love it. High-sec auto-tracking probably needs to be researched as well inside of that engineering bay. Getting just a little bit more value out of all of the static defense. Either way, ByuN is starting to stabilize on a late-game army. Shin doing a very large switchback to pure Ultra-ling Bane. Yeah, it gets a decent trade, but not an amazing one. I don't think that these Hydras are gonna win. Oh, okay, like that it will work. Okay. The Queens did not like the way that you were looking at that Hydra, dude. Alright. Tactical nuke coming right up. What ByuN does need, though, and this is one of those weird spots, right? ByuN has got so many command centers here that he can mine out those bases incredibly fast. But what he doesn't have is a mineral line right over here yet. He needs to secure another mineral line within the next minute or two, because otherwise, in a very weird way, he's going to go broke. He's invested so much into infrastructure, but he's got very little, actual mining going on. The mineral fields are running dangerously low. This base I never really trust very much. I would love, to see a big emphasis on trying to take down this right over here and set up a very good defensive position. Another 4 command centers. ByuN, we need to chill a little bit, man. ByuN's like, yo, I've got minerals. Let me make another 2,000 minerals worth of whatever I can. I feel like ByuN actually sometimes gets a little tunnel visioned on the amount of command centers that he makes. I've seen a bunch of games where he loses, but he does have like 20 CCs. And it's a bit ironic because you run out of cash, even though you've been making investments into never running out of cash, if that makes any sense. Right? Like you technically can mine out bases, but you can't secure bases, which is a weird thing to have, and this could be another one of those situations. Good splits over here, though. Ooh, lovely splits right there by ByuN. Blowing up planetaries, not necessary anymore here for the Zerg, but Shin doesn't know how many of those command centers there are. New CCs start up yet again. Now we finally go into the engineering bay upgrade there for the planetary fortress. +1 air, by the way, happening as well here for Shin. Remaking that hatchery that he didn't even try to mine from earlier on. Another Nidus Worm gets planted. Yeah, it's one of the really large advantages that Zerg has in the late game. Once you have all of your infrastructure built, you don't really need anything else, right? Like, you get 1 Lurker Den, you get 1 Hydra Den. That's all you need. You're not gonna make 4 Hydra Dens. It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, you still have to build some of those hatcheries up and maybe some static defense and spines and spores. But it's a hell of a lot cheaper than what Terran is supposed to do, and... yeah, while this hatchery will die yet again, it is leaving the bases on the left very exposed. Is there enough for the Terran player to actually defend this side of the map? Look at the Terran army. Ooh, beautiful fungal as well. That infester must have been sitting there for ages already. That's another command center going down. SCVs are dropping like flies. ByuN needs to be real careful. It's weird when you have 9 orbital commands after losing a whole load of them already too, but to also be completely broke and stuck at 120 supply. Now, of course, if left uncontested, these mules are gonna have a field day. Zerg reinforcements, though, are showing up already yet again. The Corruptors are very nice, actually. I like the idea of having like 7 Corruptors in the mix. Very good to start working away at those Liberators, but also the Medevacs. Not units that you really want to be losing at this point in the game. Hatchery over here being rebuilt. Hatchery in the top left is now also finishing up. A couple of Lurkers in the back of the Terran's main. Oh, actually quite a few more than just a couple. Here we go again. Corruptors moved in at the front. Ling Bane is thinking about moving in into the back. No detection available here for the Zerg, but no scan available either for the Terran. Planetary Fortress not up in that location. Ay, ay, ay. The mules are here just to body block whatever they can right now. Yeah. Unfortunate game for ByuN. Because, yeah, you build up all of the things, but then you run out of cash. And that will take us to Maganatha. Game number 2 in this best of 3 series. ByuN investing big into real estate. But it turns out nobody wanted to live there. Not really a thing that we have over here in the Netherlands, I will be honest with you. But I did recently watch a couple of YouTube videos of people that are visiting abandoned cities. Projects that have been spent billions on and then nobody moves in. That's kind of the situation that ByuN just ran into, you know? Like, he invested an insane amount of resources into new expansions, but then he didn't take the expansions because he didn't have enough army to secure the expansions against the opponent. ByuN has been trying to prove to us for a long time that the command center market is a bubble. See, guys, I told you it's going to crash. I don't really see a lot of other Terran players, though, having that problem, right? So, yeah, we see Terrans going up to a dozen orbital commands from time to time, but I feel like ByuN gets there quicker than anybody else. And then in some situations, I guess you end up paying the price. Well played by Shin. Lovely work right there by Shin. Can't really criticize him all too much. I think his early game was a little bit not the cleanest it ever was really supposed to be, but I mean, those mistakes are pretty forgivable, especially like the timing of the hive there. I think that one was quite suboptimal. Seemed a little late. But ultimately, as long as you can live for long enough to finish up the 3-3 and to get up to Lurkers anyway, you will probably be fine. And since ByuN's plan was to build command centers and not actually go for big timing attacks or anything of the like, Shin never really got punished for that small little misplay. Okay, so what do we do right now? This is a massive map. Already, we have a bunch of Zerglings are running around. Bit of a different opener here this time around for Shin. Let's see what the Zerglings can do. It's actually a Marine after the Reaper now. So the Reaper is moving through the southern section of the map. And this is going to be super annoying for ByuN, who did not go for an SCV scout. So he did not confirm that, yes, this was indeed a hatchery first opener. Now the Reaper has to come back home. Shin is just playing macro on the back of this, right? This is really just him playing around the fact that ByuN does skip the SCV scout early on. The norm is to go SCV scout into Reaper. Most of the time you don't need the SCV scout because it's just a good old hatchery first. But every once in a while you will play against the pool first build. And this is now incredibly annoying for the Terran player, who's going to try and bring this game back around, right? So command center starts up. We'll probably go into a starport here, but you can see he doesn't really have the minerals for it. He was a little bit delayed right there on the reactor. Decides to now cancel the Hellion that was building, go into a tech lab instead. Maybe he wants to go Cyclone. A little hard to say. In the meantime, though, Shin is just going into a good old third base. Shin with zero intention here to really be the aggressor right now on the back of this, but ByuN doesn't know. Okay, lovely punishment right there by Shin. I did not quite catch it in the first game, but I assume here that ByuN indeed did skip out the worker scout as well in game number 1. And that Shin looked at it in the first game of the series and he thought to himself, you know what? Let me see if I can punish that. Very quick stimp back here for ByuN. Okay, so we don't have a starport at all. We're going second gas geyser right now as well before the starport, so all of this is a bit of a mess. Double engineering bay coming up on the back of this. Some Hellions are going to be out, but yeah, I think we're just going to go like triple Rex now. Is that what the plan is? We'll probably go into a bunch of additional barracks and then eventually go into a starport. It means, though, that Shin can basically do whatever he likes for the foreseeable future. So what is it that he likes? Well, he's actually been making a lot of links. Yeah, Terran won't have too much. 2 Hellions only currently available. ByuN yet again building structures, but not really achieving too much with them just yet. Honestly, these Zerglings could be dangerous. Normally, there's about 6 Hellions out at this point in the game. There are none. Other than, well, these 2 right here, but there's none in addition coming. I think if Shin were to be aware of that, he could just run in with these Lings and get a lot of damage done. He must realize by now, though, with the Overlord Scout and also these 2 Hellions still being down by themselves, that there is indeed not gonna be additional Hellions. So Shin is gonna test the waters at the front now. He's going for triple Spore Crawler, too. An oddball of a timing. Depot's not lifted in time. Marines are going to die, and ByuN just steps out. Now that right there was an absolute disaster for ByuN. Honestly, I feel like the last 10 minutes or so of Terran gameplay that we've watched, including the last few minutes, I guess, of that first game, nothing really went his way. Everything was a bit of a mess. Those games happen, but man, are they frustrating. Now, to make matters worse, these 2, they had a rematch at the very end of the RSL, that same day. So, that previous best of 3 was one of the opening matches for the day. The way that the RSL works is that there's 4 players in a group. You have 2 players obviously going up against each other in a best of 3 series. That's the one match that we just watched. Then you have the 2 winners of those 2 best of 3s facing off against each other. And then to decide the second person that moves on out of the group, they have the deciders match at the very end. So usually you have the 2 opening matches, then you have the winners match, the losers match, and then the loser of the winner's match goes up against the winner of the loser's match to decide. Does that make any sense? It still makes sense in my head. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that these 2 played a secondary best of 3 a few hours later from the one that we just watched. Same tournament, but now a match for all the marbles. And I think it's nice to have a look at this, right? Because you get a bit of a mental reset. You get to consider what you've done. You get to think about it for a little while, and then maybe come up with a different plan. This is like a series of series now. Another best of 3, though. So let's see. It's going to be a double rec start. Look, this already I do agree with. This is the map Mothership. I think Mothership is a pretty fascinating map because of the fact that it's a 3-player map. So it makes this all a little bit different here for ByuN. A pool first build, for example, like what we saw in the previous game from Shin. Not going to happen. You can't really go for a pool first build very reliably unless you... maybe. Yeah, maybe if you actually scout with the Overlord and then you see the command center building on this side, you could send the Lings in if you were not to see anything over here. I don't know. Difficult call to make. He's only seen a single barracks, but he has seen the positioning of it, so I think that gives him pretty much all of the info that he needs. This is apparently a map with 9 bases available for each player. That's a little bit much. Most of the time, StarCraft 2 maps have 7. Yeah, in the past we've had maps that have only 6. Most maps, I think, right now are 7, and then some of them are 8. 9 bases each. It is because of the fact that this is technically a 3-player 1v1 map. It does mean, though, that we could see some really big macro games. I don't know if this is going to be one of them, but only time will tell. Good old triple Reaper. Zergling speed, though, is coming up. Let's see, how much damage can we do? So far, a good amount of it. Yeah, you're gonna have to continue this dance here as Shin. Ooh, nice snipe on the Queen. Until Link Speed is done. And Link Speed is a pretty quick upgrade, but when you're waiting for it, it takes forever. ByuN knows the timing of it. 325 or so is usually the norm, so he decides to go back home. No reason to give up on the Reapers. May as well send them back home and hide behind the wall. A little bit unlucky, I suppose, here for ByuN's that he did spawn in the top left. So there's not a lot of RNG, right? There's not a lot of randomness in StarCraft 2. But spawn location is completely randomized. And Terrans are unable to set up where the tech lab and the reactor onto a structure goes. So if he would have spawned over here, the tech lab would have still been on the right side and it would not be so exposed. It would be behind the safety of the wall. Same over here in the top right. The tech lab would also be behind the choke point. Don't know if it's going to be a problem in this particular instance, but we have seen some Zerg players use that info to their advantage. I still think it's actually kind of silly. I kind of wish that you could choose where your add-on appears. Makes sense if it had like an alternative location right over here. Anyhow, a Raven? What is this, ByuN? I don't know. I think the Raven is awesome. I've been calling for Terrans to use Ravens in the late game, although I know it's not really, you know, doable, but... Raven in TVZ. We see this all the time in Terran versus Protoss, right? Widowmine drop into Raven, for example. Kind of awesome. Very good against Blink Stalker openers, but... What about Terran versus Zerg? So, by the way, the force field looking thing that you see over here is technically the edge of the map. So, even though this map does look like there's a lot of dead space over here, it is inaccessible. So, the map is kind of squared off like that. Although, it kind of looks like this thing is behind the wall. Are you cheating, Raven Man? I guess the center of the Raven is within the map. And then the model itself is kind of thick. So, it looks like it's hanging out of the map. Anyway. We'll have to see how much damage it can do. Because even when you are fully surprised by a Raven, how much does the Raven really achieve? Alright, let's see. Yeah, he wants to kill the Overlord, fair enough. I think this is mostly just a distraction. It's weird, right? To go for a push like this, to try and distract, only for the Raven to be unable to go in? I want to believe in the power of the Raven as much as ByuN, but I don't feel it. Might be time to go and at least prepare to... Raven got nothing done. Brenda was over here, man. Get off my creep! No worries, Brenda. Spore Crawler as well on the back of this. Yeah, the Raven... it exists. Oh, can we kill this if we drop like 3 auto turrets? Maybe if you drop all the auto turrets, we can just kill the... It's expensive, though. Like, Ravens are very pricey units. Alright. Third command center in the meantime has indeed landed. Stimpack is going to already be done and combat shields added into the mix. Nice scan over here, getting rid of some of the creep. But all of this feels a little bit lackluster. Remember those Reapers from the early game? Me neither. Damn, ByuN certainly picked favorites there. You guys are useless past 3.5 minutes. Oh, Raven's going back in. Oh! Spore Crawler coming in clutch to save... No! A Raven for a queen. Now, it's not just any queen. That was Brenda, but... I guess that's still a good trade for the Zerg in the end. Bit of a weird one, though. I would have much rather liked to see that Raven added to this control group so we can actually use it to, well, not need to scan every 3 moves to snipe creep. Anyway. Nice little targeting there onto the Baneling. A little bit of cursed creep spread over here across this bridge. I think this map is beautiful, but the creep on these, whatever, like, it's weird. It's even weirder when you put a Nidus Worm on here. You can't put a Nidus Worm on it, and it kind of just hangs in from the bottom. Like, you can burrow units onto this... I guess we can call it a bridge. It looks extremely strange. Anyway, +2/+2 coming up right now for ByuN. Baneling speed, in the meantime, is finishing, and Shin does go for a hive that's like a full minute earlier than the one that we saw in the previous series. Yeah, these little skirmishes are nice and all, but they don't really achieve much for the Terran. Shin will be happily taking those all day, every day. because we're fighting over nothing. Still, the Terran's eco is solid. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now. Inside of the main base, 4th command center, 2nd factory. Pretty much identical to what we saw in the first game. +1 missile. +1 missile? What are we gonna do at Hive Tech? What's the plan, Shin? So we don't even have a Hydra Den. So we can't go Lurkers. I guess we can upgrade the Queens. Ultra Cavern. I mean, that makes sense, but the +1 missile makes no sense whatsoever. You can upgrade the Queens, I suppose. Maybe it's to honor Brenda, you know? Brenda's legacy gets +1. Okay, no, he canceled it. He canceled it in favor of +2. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Brenda. We don't want that anymore. We don't need that sort of thing. All right, Ultras here are going to be very strong. Question is, will Shin be able to get it out in time? ByuN is hitting a 2-2 timing before that point, and he has been dancing around the edge of the creep wonderfully for a long time already. Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map, but plenty of reinforcements, I believe, to prevent this from being a gigantic issue. Little medevac drop over here as well in the top right-hand corner. That hatchery might be in trouble. Zerglings are blocking the base over there, but what we're really doing is buying time. This upgrade over here, chitinous plating, is absolutely critical for Shin. Ultras do not work without that upgrade. So he's trying to buy time to finish it up, to get the Ultralisks out, at which point he can actually defend against this type of attack. Oh, yo, I thought ByuN for a second wasn't looking. He does see it. But this group of Zerglings has been incredible here for Shin. Even though they haven't really achieved too much as far as raw damage goes, they've been buying so much time. And the clock is ticking. Like, we are like a half minute away from Ultras actually being a viable unit. And now the Chonkers are already out. As long as Shin can be okay up until that point, he's just going to fake it. He's faking it right now. I don't think you move off creep, do you? Well, if you see a really good opportunity, maybe. Yeah, no. May as well back up. I don't think there's really any reason to risk it. And as the Ultralisk numbers grow, ByuN is not going to be able to stop them anymore with Marine Marauder Medevac Mine. He's going to need Liberators. He's going to need Ghosts. Preferably both, but at least one of the two. Already, though, Shin is preparing. Adding on a Spire. 3-3 starts up. Command Center Addiction continues right here for ByuN. ByuN, stop it. Yo, we need an intervention for ByuN. We need a Ghost Academy or a Liberator transition or something, man. I was like, I need a Command Center. All right, ByuN. We'll drop mules for $1. All right, ByuN, calm down. Maybe we should just build a... Okay, starports. Fair enough. That's better. He believes that he's gonna be okay for now with just the Marauders, but... Yeah, he's inviting the Zerg into the literal minefield. But Shin is not gonna enjoy that too much. Although I will have to say, though, ByuN is doing a really good job just keeping this Zerg player contained. You can see here that Shin does not really want to move off creep. And if you look at the mini-map right now, it does kind of look like Shin has been punched in the mouth a couple of times, right? Like, he doesn't have a whole lot of space. Okay, now that is also the Zerg getting the full surround right there on that clump of units, and he may finally be able to break free. Yeah, and Ultras are just so dangerous here. Ultras go from being absolutely terrible to amazing really quickly. Well, usually it's the other way around, I suppose, right? They go from being amazing to absolutely terrible. Zergling run by in the meantime. That siege tank from earlier is going to get destroyed. 15 confirmed kills to its name. Bunch of Widow Mines popping out of the factory, though. It's going to prevent those Zerglings from getting even more damage done. But if you're not going to show Liberators or you're not going to show Ghosts, Zerg is just going to rinse and repeat with more Ultras. A Cyclone coming up. ByuN not adding on any add-ons here either. No Fusion Core, so we're not going to go into any Liberator range just yet. Now suddenly it's up to the Terran player to try and stabilize. Infestors, okay. High Ground Expo over here. The creep, though, is very lackluster in this section of the map. But you can see immediately, right, upon breaking out of his bases, we see creep going around everywhere we go. Planetary Fortress is going to have a difficult time staying alive. Apparently I'm quoting songs today. I previously said I want to break free. Now apparently we're staying alive. What other StarCraft references can there be? I don't know. 24 SCVs, though, down the drain. And while we do get a bit of a surround here on some of the units, this is still a trait that Shin will be pretty happy about. I think it's important right now for ByuN to don't stop believing. And to try his very best to stay alive. Okay. You get down, but sorry. No, but seriously, ByuN is not really too keen on countering the Ultra. And when you're not too keen on countering the Ultra is actually a good unit. Only 5 of them have died so far. We have seen them deal way more damage than that. Now, given a few minutes, though, ByuN is going to be able to get to a very nice, healthy Liberator count. For now, though, the Command Center addiction is still going on. We have double expansions going up at the same time. Infestors are sharking around the map. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. You gotta be careful with those. Bunch of burrowed banelings right over here, too. So apparently we're skipping ghosts altogether. Here we go again, though. Liberator's not in position for this spot. Fungal growth to prevent the Bio army from coming down to the low ground. And the Zerg army will run away yet again. Oh, he tried to burrow on the cursed bridge. Not going to happen. Yeah, ByuN clearly with a different playstyle here. At least an intended playstyle in game number, well, 1 of this second best of 3 series. But it's not my favorite approach, I will be honest. I think across the board, this is all just disrespecting the Ultra, man. Fungal! Oh! That was that infestor that was set up in the middle of the map a while ago, allowing those Ultras to easily cross the distance, and a bunch of Vipers right now added into the mix. Great moves here by Shin across the board. Normally we see Zergs going back and forth between using Ultras and not using Ultras. But I think in this instance, he's been looking at it. He's like, yeah, I guess there's a few Liberators out, but nothing all too crazy. Zerglings are going to scout out that this base has not been retaken. He's going to scout that the base in the top is taken yet again. So I guess we have our work cut out for us. Yep. That's where the Zerg army is thinking of heading as well. If the Liberators are all in the right spot, though, they can actually put in a lot of work. SCVs to the front. Guess he's trying to repair. Yeah, through the Liberation circles, these Ultras are not going to be that good, although there are Corruptors now in the mix. Missile turrets being set up in the middle of the map. Okay, ByuN really trying to see if he can create a bit of a staging ground from right here. You know what? That is going to work out at this rate. Viking numbers are growing right now to try and counter the Corruptors and the few Vipers that are out. Bit awkward, though, to be making Vikings in this matchup at this point in time. Parasitic bombs, Corruptors moving in. That'll once more open up the door for the Ultra. Yeah, the Corruptors are just so much better in these type of scenarios, right? Like, you get destroyed by those units if you're not careful. A couple of Zerglings trying their absolute best. 8 SCVs did die. Okay. And we rinse and repeat right now, I guess, as Shin. Shin, though, isn't that rich. Like, Shin has 86 workers worth of eco, yeah, but the minimap, it's not bad, right? We have a lot of bases, as discussed on this map, so you have a lot of potential mining. But it's not like we can really consider him super duper rich at this point in time. We once more have the Infestor moving in, making it impossible for that Terran army to move away. Zergs have had to get creative with those Infestors, but they've been putting in so much work. No more planetary fortress over here. The advantage of the, well, the command center here, the orbital, is that you can lift it off and get the corruptors into the battle, I suppose. But still, this is so many SCV losses, and the swarm has been absolutely relentless. Shin playing this like a proper Zerg right now. None of those slow-moving unit compositions in this game. None of the sneaky run-bys with Nidus worms. This is pure Ultra-ling Bane from start to finish. Next up, we're back on Maganatha. This time around, I fast-forwarded through the first 2 minutes. This time around, despite the fact that previously ByuN got pool-firsted, is that a word? He got pool-firsted on this map. He decides to go command center first, completely scoutless. This is probably about the best case scenario right here for the Terran, considering he is going up against the standard hedge first here from Shin. But it is certainly a little bit ballsy. One Marine straight into a reactor, straight into double Hellion production. Now, when you do cut this corner, right? When you don't go for the SCV scout early on, you don't go for the Reaper, you go command center first, you go really rapid, third command center too. You get the double, like, when you cut all these corners and you basically have no units, and you can get away with it, which it looks like right now here for ByuN, any timing attack that you go for hits like an absolute truck. So Shin needs to be careful about this sort of thing. He has now seen roughly what he's going up against. He's seen the timing of the orbital command on the low ground. He's obviously seen the lack of any sort of Reaper on his side of the map. No SCV scout. But any timing attack right now that Terran wants to go for is going to hit very hard. Third hatchery starts up. There's a couple of different things you can do here as the Zerg. Oh. Either you try to fight greed with greed. So you try to out-greed the greed. Or you can go for something else. And I guess what we're going for here is a tech advantage. Shin did go Zorkling speed, but left the drones in gas and went straight into a lair. Extra gas is going up as well in the natural expansion. Obviously, that second gas in the main base taken very early. This can only mean Ultralisks. Okay. I am not yet 100% sold on the strength of the Muta, but I feel like lately, in the games of ZVT, there it is. In the games of ZVT where we have seen Mutas, they have been pretty awesome. There's a serious disconnect, because I've tried playing Mutas myself many times, and it goes terribly every time that I do. Now, I think the bottleneck here, the moral of the story, is that I am the problem, and not the Muta. But Mutas are very hit or miss, you know? Like, we see them failing miserably all the time. But when they work well, they do seem to be pretty ridiculous. So real quick, yet again, the changes they have made to the most recent balance patch are that the Spire is 50 minerals and 50 gas cheaper, and it builds faster. Those two things are nice, but I feel like the real reason why Ultra-ling Bane is once more at least a viable unit composition is because the Baneling speed gives 5 HP to the Baneling again. So the Baneling being more sustainable, I think it's more important than the Mutas timings here. But, I mean, Shin is going to be able to get the Mutas out ridiculously early. This is going to be like, I don't know, 7-8 Mutas by minute 540-ish? Oh, he had a supply block. ByuN doesn't want to risk it. I actually think he could have jumped in. But he didn't want to risk it here because he knows the situation that he's in. Still though, these Mutas aren't gonna come out early. And they may just be a bit of a surprise. It's gonna be 8 Mutas. Will he go for the +1 flyer upgrade? I'm assuming we go Baneling speed first. I feel like we have to go Baneling speed first, no? Oh, he goes +1 flyer first. Okay. Quick armory here, by the way, from ByuN. We'll have to keep an eye out on that one. Feels a little early for just 2-2. Now, these Cloak Banshees are dead. Awkward moment here for those Banshees. Now the Flippy Flappies will go across the map. At the very least, ByuN has gotten the heads up, so he will be able to prepare a bunch of missile turrets, but obviously losing those Banshees is painful. Now the +1 roly-poly comes in. Okay. And let's dance. Now, how do you dance with something that flies? Difficult. Yeah, difficult. And suddenly, right? And I feel like maybe this is one of the reasons why the style does seem to be pretty darn effective. Terrans go from being the aggressor at this stage in the game to being the defender. Look at these Hellions just awkwardly sitting here. These Hellions don't have any business sitting at home. They should be across the map. But because ByuN is kind of like trying to navigate this spot that he's not too comfortable with, he's decided to bring these Hellions back home, maybe a little bit worried for like a Zergling run by or something along those lines. Armory, by the way, entirely forgotten. SCV that finished building it is still sitting around, but whatever the plan was right here for the Terran, it's been thrown out of the window. And now suddenly that command center first, the really quick third CC, all of it is kind of negligible. We have the 5th hatchery already building. 6th hatchery now in the top right-hand corner too. +1/+1 for the melee. It is very nice to have. It's always a little bit later. I mean, +1 melee here. Yeah, this is +2 infantry attacks. But the plan, I guess, for Shin is just sort of keep that Terran player pinned back and maybe go for counterattacks. You don't even really need to fight the army, unless they maybe go on to creep. But Shin has suddenly decided to pick up the pace, and he's being surprisingly aggressive with the Mutas as well against Marines. If you're not stimming, I guess he moves in. 550 plus average actions per minute right here for Shin. Ay. Infestation pit coming up, so we will go into a hive here yet again eventually. Ultras will be making a comeback again if Shin is given enough time, but action is very much so up to ByuN, because I don't believe that if he keeps playing like this, I think he's just gonna get outscaled really hard by the Zerg. Like, the Zerg is just gonna scale out of control. Creep is gonna be covering everything. I mean, even though you have 500 plus actions per minute on average, you can see that the APM is still the bottleneck. This is one of the crazy things about Ultra-ling Bane. Like, technically, the sky is the limit as far as APM goes. There's always more to do. We're even gonna go for the gold base in the most cursed way possible. I do feel a little bit bad for the map maker. So in case you're wondering, so there's a mechanic hidden on this map that we never really see come into play. So the idea behind this base is that you go for the cooling tower. The cooling tower collapses and destroys the Zelnaga tower, at which point it leaves behind a bunch of debris. Then you kill the debris and you can take the base right over here in the middle. Great idea in concept. No StarCraft 2 player has ever executed it, though, because everybody just builds the hatchery or the command center or whatever off-center. Look at this. Shin taking the base that is supposed to be the Terrans. This is a gigantic taunt. He kind of wants a sensor tower to go up over there. This is almost a jerk move, you know? This is as close as a Zerg player will go to giving the Terran the middle finger. It's a little bit of a rude gesture, but it's entirely within the game's parameters, so I guess it's fine. But that hatchery is not intended to be mining, I don't think. Double missile turret set up right over here. Now, if we do see the Terran player maxing, and it kind of seems like we are getting to that point, even though he's been punched in the mouth a lot of times already, it does seem like he's gonna max eventually. This is still going to be a Terran army. Ooh, this is not good for the Mutas. This is still the Terran army. Hatchery over here goes down. That will be far better than that of the Zerg. At least off creep, this Terran army is going to hit like a truck. So if ByuN can get all of his units together in one giant ball, maybe with 3-3 done, maybe already, honestly, if he can move everything together in one giant ball and move out against the Zerg and take a fight off creep, there's a very real possibility of him winning the engagement. Time is very much so yet up here until Ultras are out. Ultras are going to be able to settle that debate. We've seen in the previous game how good Ultras are when they're not countered. No Ghost in the previous game at all. We did see Liberators, but obviously when you're going up against, well, soon to be +3 Mutas. I guess +3 Corruptors are going to be pretty fantastic as well when it comes to fighting against Liberator. So I think Ghosts are pretty much a necessity here. Hatchery in the far bottom left. This hatchery is already done. Okay, let's do a little bit of first-person view. This is what ByuN is looking at whilst playing this game. The minimap is dark and full of Zerg. Still though, he's taking care of one of the bases at least. Checks out the watchtower. We need to start spreading the units here around against some of these units too. Always gotta be careful about banelings. In the meantime, if we look at this from the Zerg's point of view, baneling roll by at the bottom. Oh my god, we have the Diva announcer as well at the bottom. Cool guys don't look at explosions though. This game here from Shin is directed by Michael Bay, I suppose. Like, he just rolled banelings into that mineral line at the 6 o'clock position, but he never even looked.
Your forces are under attack.
Your forces are under attack! I kind of hate it. I'm not gonna lie. Although I heard that the Korean version of Diva, the Diva announcer, is better. But I don't know. What do I know? All right, Lingbane moving in again. I'll take control of the camera. Fight in the top right-hand corner, too. Ultras are getting their full upgrades now, though, and that is when they indeed will be triggered. 5 of them are going to reinforce the losses. Yeah, maybe occasionally you do want to look at the banelings, because there could have been big damage done. Shin not quite achieving that. 9 Ultras. Okay. All right. Let's see. How much can we do? I'm a little afraid here that ByuN is going to get absolutely murdered. Fully upgraded Ultras suddenly appearing on the map is extremely dangerous. I mean, they're not fully maxed out yet. This base is pointless. Don't Shin. Shin trying to keep this base alive is just silly. Nice little knockdown over here. Mutas in the meantime, though, are still going to be extremely good. Yeah, and look at the position on the minimap here for ByuN. Unable to leave pretty much his front door. He's basically trying to put out fires left, right, and center. Unable to be the aggressive Terran that he usually likes to be. He's trying to, I guess, satisfy his command center addiction yet again. Fair enough, but it's a bit of a problem. Now, he has seen Ultras. He is maxed out. But is this really an army that you want to have against Ultras? I don't know. Planetary Fortress, though, is going to be nice. Well, here we go. The big chompers have arrived. Chomp, chomp, chomp. It is time to just kill whatever we can hit. Banelings are trying to roll through. Mutas are targeting down whatever they can. Nice splitties here yet again by ByuN, trying to mitigate as much of the damage as possible. But the problem is the Ultras don't give a... Okay, they don't care. Nice split as well, actually. Last second split on the Ultra, mitigating a lot of the splash damage. 9 additional Ultras coming up. And believe it or not, Shin, in this series, is making Ultralisks look broken. Yeah, that's a sentence I've never said before. Okay, maybe I have. But seriously, the Ultras are looking nutty. I don't know why ByuN is refusing to go Ghosts. He was making... Yeah, finally we're making them now. He was making so many Ghosts earlier on in the first best of 3. But now we're doing Ghosts, well, a little bit too late for my liking. Let me get this straight, right? Ghosts are 2 supply each, down from 3. They got the light armor tag, and they also got 25 additional HP. Ghosts are significantly buffed compared to the previous version of them. So, in the previous patch, you would counter Ultras with Ghosts. I don't know why we're suddenly deciding not to do that anymore. Doesn't make any sense. At this point, ByuN is running out of cash. Ultras are going to try and continue moving through. My god, so many chompers. Not a very cost-effective fight here, though, for Shin. And if he is going to lose this, it's because of the lack of cost efficiency, but there is just so much freaking Zerg. Reinforcing with 100 Zerglings. 122 Zerglings. An absolute bloodbath. He's actually reinforcing this with more Zerglings than he's made so far in this game. That's pretty well. But yeah, at this point, Shin is, yeah, he's been ahead economically for like the last, I think 16 and a half minutes, give or take. Actually, this was a command center first. So maybe like the last 13 minutes or so. But Shin has been economically very sound for far too long. And while ByuN is not taking terrible fights in isolation, this is not a game about fights in isolation. We rinse and repeat now. And now that the ghosts are coming out, guess what? We're no longer adding on ultras. Brilliantly played game right here by Shin, right? So I really like it when you see that the opponent is going full committal, right? So you see both Liberators, Marauders, and then also a whole lot of ghosts coming out as the Zerg. Ultras are gonna get countered, but you know what you can make? Just an insane amount of Zerglings, and they will just tear up everything else. So, lovely series here by Shin. Honestly, going 4-0 against ByuN is a very impressive feat, and I feel like across the board, these games weren't even particularly close, except for the first one. I feel like the first game was like the first one of the first best of 3. I feel like that one really could have gone in ByuN's favor, but I guess he felt out of it ever since.